Hi, it's Hugh Foster here with another tutorial video. In this video I'm going to be breaking down a few bass lines by arguably one of the funkiest people to have ever lived, Mr. Prince Rogers Nelson. It's time for some Prince bass lines. So it's well known that during his 5-decade recording career, Prince would often play all the instruments in the studio, not just guitar, but piano, drums, and bass. And during that time, he laid down some incredibly funky bass lines. I've got to say, it's been really difficult deciding on just 5 to feature in this video, but for each of those 5 decades, I've chosen one bass line, so there'll be one for the 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on. Anyway, with this intro done, let's get started. To kick us off today, we've got Sexy Dancer from 1979's self-titled album. It was Prince's second album, the follow-up to 1978's For You. As with the majority of Prince albums, everything was composed and performed by the man himself, although the credits do list Andre Simone and Bobby Z, his touring bass player and drummer at the time, as heaven-sent helpers. Nonetheless, I'm pretty sure it was Prince himself on this one. So, let's slow it down and have a little look at this technique. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, dodgy one. Here's that second part. So, with a few fluff notes, that's pretty much it, slowed down. It's not worth cutting those out sometimes. I think, I'm only human, you're only human. Prince, debatable. I think he was probably not, because he was just too talented. Technique-wise, I think it's up for debate how he actually played that. So right then, I was doing the double thumb technique on those notes there. Although I would say it is a good introductory bass line to kind of practice double thumb technique, because there's only ever one instance of it per phrase. You're not like repeating it over and over and over, which is where if I do that for too long, it starts to fall apart. However, you can get a pretty close sound, I think, almost identical with a pick, and maybe using a finger as well every so often. So like this. And especially if you play it up here near the neck, so in between this pickup and the neck, I'd say, where you would actually play with your thumb, I think you get a pretty close sound that way. The only place where I think maybe playing with a pick might be a bit of a disadvantage with this one is those double stop octaves in the chorus. But you could actually just quickly put your pick under your finger and do thumb and second finger maybe. So, if I was to just try that bit. So yeah, either way I'd say is legit. Up to you which one you prefer. Okay, so next up we have Let's Work from 1981's Controversy. I've changed basses onto my 4-string jazz bass just because, tone-wise, I feel like this one's closer than the Anaconda. And just because I can. Who cares? So, deciding on a tune from the 80s to feature was probably the hardest choice out of all of them. There are so many alternatives that could have made the cut. Head from Dirty Mind, 7779311 by the Time, written and produced by Prince. Mountains, which I think is a very underrated track in my opinion. Housequake from Sign of the Times, and it goes without saying Alphabet Street, which is just an incredible performance. Prince being a virtuoso on the bass in that one, of course. Anyway, I decided on Let's Work. As the bass line, I'd say is almost a hook in itself. So yeah, let's break it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's two parts to the bass line. There's what he plays in most of the verses, that bit there, and then starting at that instrumental, that sort of synth feature section, that's where it gets a little more syncopated, but it's essentially the same ideas, just a bit more rhythmic stuff going on in this hand, really. Key things to look out for, really. That's deceptively difficult, that bit there. Like moving the thumb around and then having, the presence of mind to do a little vibrato and then a hammer on. And then the next bit of the main verse phrase. That's all very close together for your plucking hand. So I would just take care with that one. Rhythm-wise, the main verse part I wouldn't say is too tricky. Yeah, not too bad. But let's get on to the other part, the part that first shows up in the instrumental. 1, 2, 3, 4. I would just break it down into sections. So it's all with the thumb until that last hammer on that first phrase. And then a similar rhythm for the next phrase. A little more interplay with the thumb and the finger in the right hand. But that's essentially it, and then anything else is a melodic variation, not really a rhythmic variation. So that shows up every now and then. Also a cool thing which wasn't on the playthrough, but that comes up quite a lot in the song, and that's just outlining, the 5th and the 6th of the one chord, the B minor, which gives it that sort of Dorian feel. The two chords in this, B minor, E7, just all the way through, it's B Dorian. And that's a little lesson on modes there. Unexpected, you might say. Alright, time for Sexy MF, and you probably know what the MF stands for, but I'm not going to say it because this is Yeah, I'm trying to keep this relatively profanity free, this this channel. All right. And again, yeah, change bass again. I'm on the precision bass with flats to get that slightly mellower sound, great for fingerstyle. Also, I've cheated a bit. This bass line is most likely played by Sonny T, a member of the New Power Generation, Prince's touring band at the time. However, the groove is just so cool in this one, I had to include it. The interplay of the bass and the drum part, played by Michael Bland, it's so hip, it's so cool. That drum part is one of the best drum parts I've ever heard, and the way the bass works with it is cool. So let's hear it slowed down. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a repetitive groove, but that doesn't mean it's easy. Especially, you're just playing essentially 3 notes there. A, E, G, back to A, and then jumping up the octave. It is tricky, to take some time. And then this bit here can be a little bit fiddly as well, so take your time with that. Go some C sharp on the 4th fret and work your way up. That's essentially the whole verse part, and it just loops round. And then a chorus part, really, really syncopated, really cool. And then you're back into your main groove. But yeah, outlining 2 chords really. D, going from D down to F sharp, it's 3rd, up to A, the 5th, and then back to D, and then chromatic down to C, and then you're back to your main verse groove, which is over an A7 chord. Alright, musicology now, and I'm back on the jazz bass again. This one has a special place in my heart. Musicology was probably the first Prince album I listened to all the way through when I was about 16, 17 years old, and I gotta say it got me hooked. Up until that point, I was aware of who Prince was, vaguely, but I had no idea he could be so funky. The minimal instrumentation, I'd say, you know, pretty bold choice here, as is the incredibly dry, punchy production. At the time I first heard it, I was becoming interested in music production, and the way this album is mixed blew my tiny mind, as did 2006's 3121. Talking of 3121, the title track from that one, I would say, gets an honourable mention. Another Sonny T joint, as does Get on the Boat, played by Joshua Dunham. I should also mention The Work Part 1 from The Rainbow Children. That part played by Larry Graham, the godfather of slap bass and one of the all-time greats on bass. and the Everlasting Now from that same album. I think Prince played the original bass part of that one, but check out any live version played by Rhonda Smith. It's just so good. Let's go back to musicology and break this one down. Here it is, slowed down. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all there is to it. 4. Alright, yeah. A really, really simple one, all based around a B7 chord. So you're just going up here, playing a B all the way high up here, which, again, another thing that blew my 17-year-old mind. So up on the 14th fret playing that B, and then jumping up to the 16th fret to play its octave, and just interplay between those two, and occasionally a hammer on from A to B up on the 14th and 16th frets. But yeah, that's all there is to it. A few ghost notes and stuff like that, and I'd say dig in with the right hand. That's a real key thing there to get the sound. Yeah, get that funky digging in groovy sound. I threw in a fill as well. There's one that comes up in the track which sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so that fill. So E, F sharp, A, and then jump up here to G sharp, B, D natural, and then back down to your lowest B, which isn't that low, but you know, that's about as low as this bass line gets. Yeah. And yeah, the tricky part is getting from there all the way up on the 19th fret, that D, back down to the 14th fret, the B. But yeah, it's simple, but that doesn't mean it's bad or it's easy to play. Little secret, this one took the most takes to get the demo right. So from Prince's final studio album, Hit and Run Phase 2 from 2015, we have Stare. Now, this is just a 4-bar phrase that is repeated throughout with a few stops here and there, but it's really, really cool. Really, really cool groove. I have a sneaking suspicion that this one is actually a loop. There's a bit of, studio trickery. He played it once and thought, yeah, that'll do. We've all done it, haven't we? But I don't know. You might disagree. You might think he's just super consistent. Let me know what you think. Anyway, let's break it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so hopefully that makes it a little bit clearer. The thing I'd really watch out for in this one, though, is the second bar of the phrase. That bit there, right? There's a few things going on there. Let's break it down. Simple, just octaves, G, and then double, like 16th there, and then that octave there, that A there. There's definitely a bit of vibrato going on. And the way I'm achieving that is actually going against one of my rules for playing bass. That is, it's a pretty common thing. It's playing octaves using the first and fourth fingers in your fretting hand. However, I find in this case playing the vibrato requires using, well, in this case, a combination of two fingers. Yeah, so my second and third fingers there. And that's just easier than, I don't know, you just have to maybe change the angle a little bit if you're using the little finger. But it's a lot to do in a short space of time. Also, you've got to deaden the note, the low note, before you jump up there. So yeah, whatever method you have for deadening the note there is really going to help make sure that's nice and clean. But yeah, that pretty much covers that one. And that's just about it from me. Thanks to all my Patreon supporters for helping me decide on a shortlist for this video. Here they are. It's not a lot of them at the moment. It's still a small operation, but you know, I really do appreciate the support. Thanks, guys. Any thoughts on this list of songs? Have I made some glaring omissions? It's the internet. We've all got opinions. I'm almost certain someone's going to bring up Emancipation, which is a killer bass line. Maybe I'll just have to do another video. We'll see. But talking of Prince bass lines, I've made a playlist of all the bass lines covered in this video, plus all the ones that didn't make the cut. Link for that in the description below. And yeah, take care everyone. Hope you have as much fun learning these bass lines as I did putting this video together. That just about covers it. I'll see you next time.